Hello and welcome back to my channel, everyone. I am Dead and Arrow, and today we are going to take a journey into something truly fascinating and rich in history: the 5 main hats worn by the Pope. Now, if you ever seen the Pope on television or maybe in photos, you may have noticed him wearing different types of headgear or different types of hats, and each one more, intricate and symbolic than the last. But did you ever stop to think about what these hats mean? What do they symbolize and why are they so much important? Now, in today's video, we are going to dive into the history, significance, and symbolism of these incredible hats that have been worn by the leaders of the Catholic Church for centuries. Now, these hats are not just about fashion or tradition. Each one is steeped in centuries of history, and it carries profound meanings tied to the Pope's spiritual authority, leadership, and role as the supreme pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. And these hats, actually, each unique in design and use, they tell the story of the papacy itself, from crowns that symbolize the Pope's authority over both spiritual and temporal matters, to the humble caps representing the Pope's humility and closeness to the people. Each hat is more than just an article of clothing. They serve as powerful symbols of leadership, tradition, and faith. I know many of you are very fascinated by the Catholic Church's rich history, like its traditions and the role of the Pope in guiding millions of people around the world. So if you're passionate about learning more about the Pope's attire and maybe its significance, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. By doing so, you will stay updated with all the incredible content that we're going to be sharing here about history, culture, and religion. And now, without further ado, let's explore the 5 main hats worn by the Pope, their origins, the stories behind them, their deeper meanings, and why they are so important to the office of the papacy. Whether you are a Catholic or simply, curious about this ancient institution, this video will take you on a historical journey. So I want you to sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Now, let us start with perhaps the most famous of all the papal headgear, the papal tiara. Now, this iconic 3-tiered crown has become very synonymous with the Pope's authority, representing the power and leadership he holds as the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church. The papal tiara has a long and storied history dating back to the 8th century. Now, the origins of the tiara go back to the papacy of Pope Stephen II around the year 752. It was originally a simpler, more humble crown used in the coronation of the Pope as a symbol of his leadership, not just over the church but over the papal states. And over the centuries, the tiara has become more elaborate with precious jewels, intricate designs, and multiple tiers representing the different forms of authority held by the Pope. And the tiara's 3 distinct tiers were said to represent the Pope's roles as the ruler of the church, the temporal rule of the papal states, and the spiritual leader of all the Christians. So this crown was worn by the Pope during the Solomon coronation ceremony, and which was a significant event in the history of the Catholic Church. The last Pope to wear the papal tiara was Pope Paul the 6th during the 1963 coronation, but after that, a significant shift in papal tradition occurred. Pope Paul the 6th, in his humility, chose to abandon the use of the tiara, signaling a shift away from temporal power towards a more spiritually focused papacy. So the papal tiara, however, remains a symbol of the historical role the Pope once played as a temporal leader in addition to his spiritual duties, even though the tiara is no longer worn in papal coronations today. It is often displayed in Vatican museums, reminding us of the rich history of the papacy and the balance of both spiritual and temporal leadership that defined the role of many centuries. Now, next we have the mitre, which is perhaps the most frequently worn hat by the Pope during what we call the liturgical ceremonies and mass. Now, the mitre is a tall two-pointed hat, that has been a symbol of papal authority for centuries. It is traditionally worn by bishops, archbishops, and the Pope during mass and other formal church functions. Now, the mitre has its roots in the ancient Jewish tradition of the high priest's headgear. The early Christian bishops adopted the mitre as a way to express their spiritual authority, and over time, the design evolved to become what we recognize today. And for the Pope, the mitre is more than just ceremonial. It signifies his authority as the spiritual leader of over 1.3 billion Catholics around the world. The two peaks of the mitre represent the dual nature of the Pope's role. One peak symbolizes the Pope's role as a teacher, guiding the faithful through the teachings of the church, while the other peak also symbolizes his role as the shepherd, leading and protecting the flock of believers. So the Pope's mitre is often, ornately decorated with fine fabrics, embroidered, and sometimes precious stones, signifying the dignity and sanctity of the role. So the mitre is worn during liturgical events, processions, and even private moments of prayer, while it is often removed during moments of personal prayer to symbolize humility. It is still one of the most iconic pieces of papal attire, and it is a very powerful reminder of the Pope's responsibility to lead and teach the Catholic faithful, and it serves as a symbol of his sacred office. We have the Zucto. This is one of the simplest and most personal hats worn by the Pope, by the way. It is a very small white skull cap that is worn by the Pope in less formal settings, or maybe during moments of reflection. The Zucto is also worn by other members of the clergy, including bishops and cardinals, but for the Pope, it carries a special significance. Now, the word Zucto itself, it comes from the Italian word for small pumpkin, which refers to its rounded shape, and the Zucto is a very humble and practical piece of papal attire, and while it is not as grand as ornate as the papal tiara and mitre, it serves a very vital purpose. The Zucto is worn by the Pope to signify his connection to the faithful, particularly in moments when he's not performing his formal duties, and it is a very personal piece of attire that represents the Pope's humility and closeness to the people he serves. The Zucto is, typically worn by the Pope during more relaxed occasions when he's, for example, engaging with his followers or maybe conducting business within the Vatican. It is also commonly worn during moments of personal prayer, like it symbolizes the Pope's inner devotion and humility before God. But while the Pope wears other more ceremonial hats during, liturgical events, the Zucto is a reminder that no matter how powerful or influential the Pope may be, he remains humble and focused on his spiritual mission. Now we have what we call the biretta. The biretta is another hat worn by the Pope, though it is more commonly associated with bishops and cardinals. The biretta is a square-shaped, three-ridged cap that is worn during formal events, particularly when the Pope is engaging in administrative tasks rather than participating in mass or a liturgical ceremony. Now, the biretta's design is very simple yet symbolic. The three ridges of the cap represent the threefold authority of the priesthood: teaching, governing, and sanctifying. So while the biretta is not as elaborate as the mitre or the papal tiara, it serves as a symbol of the Pope's intellectual and spiritual authority. So the biretta is traditionally worn during meetings with bishops, cardinals, or other clergy when the Pope is involved in administrative or organizational duties. And the Pope's biretta is typically made from fine materials like cyric, and it is often adorned with decorative elements, though it is very simple compared to other papal hats. The biretta is a reminder that the Pope's role extends beyond just liturgical ceremonies, and it also involves intellectual leadership and decision making within the church. And then lastly, we have what we call the camoro. This is a unique piece of papal headgear, a red fur-lined hat worn by the Pope, particularly during the winter month or in more informal settings. The camoro's design is very simple, but it has a very deep connection to the history of the papacy. First worn by Pope John the 23rd in the 1950s, the camolo is typically made from silk or velvet with ermine or other maybe furs used for lining. This hat is not as commonly worn as the other papal hats, but it serves a specific purpose during colder months or when the Pope is engaging in less formal activities. It is a symbol of the Pope's dignity and authority, but it also serves a practical role in keeping the Pope warm during colder seasons. The red color of the camolo ties it to the traditional color associated with the papacy, while the fur lining symbolizes the Pope's role as a shepherd who cares for his flock even in harsh conditions. While the camolo is not worn on a regular basis, it remains a piece of the papal attire with a very historical significance. And that brings us to the end of our exploration into the Pope's 5 main hats. Each hat, whether worn during formal or maybe personal moments of prayer, carries with it a profound historical and symbolic meaning, from the grandeur of the papal tiara to the humility of the Zucto and the practicality of the camelo. These hats are more than just headgear. They are symbols of the Pope's unique role as the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church. I hope this video has helped you understand the rich history and the deep symbolism behind the Pope's hats. Whether you are a Catholic or just curious about the traditions of the papacy, there is so much to learn from these timeless pieces of attire. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating content like this. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, questions, or comments on the Pope's hats, so feel free to leave a message down below in the comment. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep exploring and learning about the incredible history and traditions that shape our world. My name is Dedan from Uganda. See you on the next video.